Good afternoon, everyone. I'm so sorry that we're late. We were having some technical difficulties, and our super technical team came in and um, had to fix some things for us. We were trying to just go live and let you into the webinar 5 minutes early so we could get things started. But technology happens sometimes. So here we are. Thanks for sticking around. Hello and welcome. So we have this screen up that says hello, and Unpacking the Offboarding Assistant will begin shortly. We're going to begin right now because we got a lot to talk about. But can you let us know in the chat where you are joining from? We'd love to see where everybody is coming from. So on your menu bar, you should have a Q&A function. And if you could just type in there, we'd love to see where you're joining from. And sorry, can I just ask a quick question? Can people see my screen okay? It was part of our technical challenges. Again, if you would post in the chat, I'd really appreciate that. Or if even somebody can give me a thumbs up, just make sure you can see my screen. Again, apologies. Anyone? Ah, awesome. Thank you so much. Oh, from Markham. Hi, welcome, Deepak. Anyone else want to tell us where you're from? All right. That's okay. We know we have attendees coming from all over the country, so we're going to talk about the Offboarding Assistant today and how we can help you help your clients offboard employees much more simply and efficiently and in compliance with provincial legislation. So today we're going to be unpacking the offboarding assistant again. So as an accountant or bookkeeper, you have had access. Oh, welcome from Toronto. As a accountant or bookkeeper, you've actually had access to this tool for almost a year now, and we gave it to you as a freebie. Try it out. I hoped you had a chance to use it and like it and provide some feedback. I'll talk about some of the feedback that we got. What we've done is we rebuilt it based on some of the feedback that we've gotten, and we are now offering it live as a new service that is available to you and your clients for a fraction of the cost of some alternatives that are out there. So let's get started and let's learn about it. First, we're going to go ahead and meet our host. My name is Andrea Morgan. I am a product manager at Human Evolution. I'm also a payroll compliance professional with the National Payroll Institute. I am not the brainchild behind the offboarding assistant, but I am the person who led building the product. So I'm really excited, and any feedback that you have, I look forward to hearing from you because we're always, excuse me, we're always looking to see how we can make the products better. We know that every launch is an iteration, and we look forward to feedback to just make it better and better so that you can use it better. I've got a couple of people on on our chat function today. I've got Patrick Lumia. He's a sales development representative here at PE. Patrick's going to be helping with any questions that you have about, talking about the pricing and the value behind this product and how to really talk to your clients about it. Additionally, I've got Christine McIntyre. Christine is a member of our CS team. She's also a payroll compliance professional, and with the National Payroll Institute. And Christine's available to answer any questions about kind of using the tool and when you maybe should or shouldn't use the tool. Obviously, if there's anything that would require us looking into some legislation, we might say give us a chat in CS a little later on, and we're happy to have a conversation. So what we're hoping for you to walk away with today, these are our key points. We want you to be able to answer the following questions. We want you to be able to answer, what is the offboarding assistant and how does it work? We want you to be able to answer, why did we build this offboarding assistant? Why did we at Payment Evolution build this offboarding assistant for you? When should you use the offboarding assistant and why? And what do you get out of it? What do you walk away with when you use this tool? And we're even going to include some things that you don't get out of it, just because we want to be really transparent and show you exactly what's going on and what's included and what's not included, because that's important too. So our agenda today is first we're going to do some quick housekeeping, and I'll do that right now. So everybody has access to the Q&A function within your Teams menu bar. If you have any questions, any thoughts, anything along the way, please by all means throw it into the Q&A. I've got Patrick and Christine here to answer kind of specific questions that you might have. And if they don't answer your questions when they come up, please by all means give it a brief minute, and what they're doing is they're saving them for our live Q&A at the end. So know that if they don't answer them right away, they'll tell you that they're going to post them live, and then they'll be answered at the end. Next on our agenda, we're going to talk about, we know you know how to offboard. We're not trying to insult you or anything like that. We want to show you why to use the offboarding assistant, kind of when it makes sense for you to use it, and when it doesn't make sense, because we know that you know this stuff. Then we're going to do a short demonstration. We're going to talk about pricing. And lastly, we're going to answer the questions that have gone live in the Q&A. So let's get started. First and foremost, what is the Offboarding Assistant? Well, this is really simple. It's a digital assistant that knows and understands employment legislation. That sounds pretty cool, right? So how does it work? Well, it'll ask you very simple questions. And based on your answers, it will calculate your termination pay obligations for your employees. We want to be clear that this is never going to replace anyone's work. We're not trying to take away the services that you give to your clients already. What we are trying to do is give you a buffer so that you can work with some of your more difficult clients, employees, and make sure that you are giving them what they need in a timely manner that doesn't cost you a lot of time or a lot of money. So to understand kind of what this is and really how it works is we really want to understand why we built it and what happened. So the brainchild for this project came up a couple of years ago, and we thought, why are we building this? And we said, we want to solve the compliance problem. So you ask, what are the compliance problems? This is a great question. Well, there might be some newer accountants and bookkeepers here, so let's talk about what compliance is, just as a very simple term. Compliance means in accordance with the provincial legislation related to terminations. And that provincial legislation is governed by the ESA, or the Employment Standards Act, within each province. The Provincial Ministry of Labor works on the ESA, and this is the book you have to follow, the guideline you have to follow. So it sounds pretty simple, right? Well, it's not. What are the problems? Really, there's two. First and foremost, the complexity of the rules within the Act are significant. So if any of you have ever tried to read the Employment Standards Act, you'll know that kind of the first page is pretty simple. Yep, okay, this person's been working for X amount of time. I owe them X amount of weeks, pay in lieu, and have a nice day. Easy, right? That's not what the offboarding assistant was built for in your case. And we're talking about the complexity of rules within the Act. When you go further and dig deeper, you might have different types of pay. You might have certain situations that in one section of the Act will say one thing, and in another section of the Act, it almost feels like it contradicts what the first section said. And if you've ever called the Ministry of Labor in the different provinces, you'll know that it's quite often like calling CRA, where you call 3 times and get 3 different answers for the same question. So if we're confused and the people who are at the Ministry of Labor are confused, you can bet everybody else is confused too. And so these rules are very complex. And so what the tool does is it simplifies it. The second problem associated with compliance is the administrative costs to confirm compliance are high. And in this, I'm talking about you and your client. When I say administrative costs, I say your client comes to you with a difficult situation, you have to spend your time. And maybe you do value billing for your clients. So they pay a flat rate and it includes everything under the sun. And so you've now spent 4 hours on something that is quite complex because you're going through the employment standards legislation and you're not making any extra money for that. You have built that into your initial pricing with the hope that it's only going to happen very rarely. For the client, if they don't have this built into their they're billing with you, it's going to cost them a significant amount. And you might be okay with that, but you might also not have the time. And therefore, they might go and look for outside professionals. And the cost of those can be quite high, which we're going to see towards the end. So, to really illustrate why these are problems, in 2022-2023, Ontario alone saw 11,718 ESA violation investigations. Now, termination payments was in the top three. Oh, I see my slide adjusted itself and cut off that last word. It is in the top three. So why do your clients care? Why do you care if it, 11,718, there's lots of businesses. Who's to say that we're going to be one of them? Well, they should care because if they are subject to a violation investigation, the time and cost associated with defending their company is again significant. And by time and cost, I'm talking this is like a CRA audit where you have to go in and you have to prove that you are not at fault. And that is time taken away from running their business or time taken away from you doing other billable services if they've put it on you to do it. That is something that nobody needs to do. If somebody is found in violation of an ESA uh, legislation, then fine, and they don't pay the required amount within the specified period of time, which is short, the fines can start anywhere from $25,000 to $50,000 and include up to a year of jail time. So why does this matter for your clients and for you? Because the cost of non-compliance is just too high. And so we've built this tool to help your clients with termination payments and make it simple. So thinking about why we built this, how we built this, we made it to help you help your clients with your termination payments. We've built a series of assumptions that make it really simple to use. And so we've built these into the tool. So what that means is that we've gone in and made some very general assumptions or widely accepted assumptions. And we have made them available for you to review at help.paymentevolution.com. And what they do is they took the tool from having to ask you 50 questions to get the right answer to asking a maximum of 5 questions to get the right answer. And so again, they're available at help.paymentevolution.com. That's our help pages. You can search the word assumptions. You can reach out to our CS team and ask them, where's that link to assumptions? I want to review what assumptions you've made. But I'll give you a quick example. In the system, we only have a field for employees' province of employment. We don't have a field for where they currently work or where they currently perform their work. And ESA standards are based on where they currently perform their work. So with that in mind, the assumption is that their province of employment is also where they currently perform their work. If that's not the case for this employee that you're running it for, know that ahead of time. Don't run it for that. It's not going to be the best use of the tool for it. But you can go through the series of assumptions and see what's out there. Know also that the tool will always err on the side of caution. And what this means is that we will err on the side of the employee. If there's any variables, we will make sure that it leans towards the employee, and this will always guarantee that the employer is at or above those minimum standards laid out by the ESA. And you might think, well, that might cost my client more. Is that really worth it? Honestly, it is. And here's why. It actually ends up being better for the employee and the employer. So first, it's better for the employee because they know that they're walking away with both a fair and compliant termination payment. It might not be the best of leaving terms, but knowing that they have gotten what they were due legally is really important for them not to walk away and potentially trash talk your client or their business or their coworkers or anything. The company has done right by them, and they have proof that they've done this. Erring on the side of caution is also better for the employer because there is no chance that they are going to be non-compliant. If there is any variable that we don't know, and we've erred on the side of the employee, then the chances that they are non-compliant are almost zero because we've always erred on that side of caution. So when should you use this tool? Now we know, we understand, we want to be compliant. We know that we can use those easy, simple cases. We can do those on our own. We know the rules for those, but we want to, we might have a more complex case. And if we have a more complex case with an employee, we want to know when's the right time to use the offboarding assistant. Well, first and foremost, when it is recommended. This was actually, we gave you guys the first version a while back. One of the best recommendations or the best feedback we got was that somebody, a bookkeeper, called me and he said, "Why are you asking me what to run the offboarding assistant when you don't even know why I've terminated the employee? Most of my clients' employees quit, so I would never need to pay termination payments. Why don't you ask me that first?" And, that was the light bulb moment for us. And we went, great, that's fantastic feedback. So that's exactly what we did. We built the tool around the ROE, reasons for termination, and whether it's recommended and whether you might owe termination payments. So a simple example of that is if your employee quit, when you go to offboard an employee, when the employee quits, it does not prompt you to run the offboarding assistant. It says, "Oh, you're good. We've already evaluated that based on your reason for termination, you don't need to pay this employee any termination compensation." On the other hand, if you were to run something like shortage of work, then you would be subject to termination payments, and so it's going to recommend it. Now, remember, I said that it errs on the side of caution, and there's some things that it doesn't know. So this is where the second part comes in. So it's recommended, and you're terminating the employee permanently. So my favorite example of this is code K13 on your reasons for termination. And code K13 is other / change of company ownership. And change of company ownership could mean one of two things. It could mean that the company owner simply is keeping all of the employees' new CRA number. So the previous owner is doing their due diligence, closing off their account with CRA, filing T4s, filing ROEs, and the employees will be rehired in the new company. In that case, you wouldn't run the offboarding assistant. On the other hand, change of ownership could mean that the company owner is letting everybody go. They're starting fresh, clean slate. They've got their own crew, and they are letting everybody go. In that case, those employees are being terminated permanently. So having this idea of when it's recommended and you're terminating the employee permanently really helps you know when's the right time to use it, because it's going to recommend it when it says change of ownership, because it's going to err on the side of caution. You now know that it might not be required, depending on the individual situation. So when it's recommended, you're terminating permanently. And for employees without a termination clause in their employment contract, hopefully lots of the companies have termination clauses in their employment contracts with their employees. But if they don't, then this is a great time to run it. Again, guarantee that you're above compliance. Or for employees with a termination clause in their employment contract, limiting payments to the ESA requirements. So that means if you say, okay, on termination, we're going to pay you exactly what the government says that we have to. Cool, that's great. Run the assistant to make sure that you're within the right frame. It will not help you. It's not going to help you work through if their employment contract gives a greater right or benefit out above and beyond the ESA. If you want to run it to get what the ESA requirement is and then work on top of that, if that's how it's laid out in the contract. But obviously, if the contract supersedes the legislation, then you would go with whatever the contract says. So when should you really use it? When you want to save time and guarantee compliance. Okay, let's do a quick demo. I'm just going to log into my page here. Oops. Just give me 1 second. I'm going to be using one of our Evolve accounts. So if you haven't seen Evolve yet and you would like to see it, now's your chance. So you'll see here, I've got one of my Evolve accounts live, and I'm going to show you how to run the Offboarding Assistant on a series of employees. And I'm going to keep it quick for you. Again, I know that you guys have seen this before. You've seen some of the things. Maybe you haven't seen the new flow. Let's go see what happens. So the first thing I'm going to do is I am going to offboard an employee and show you how to run it, when it's recommended, and how to not run it, what happens when it's not recommended, so you can see the difference. So I start with start offboarding from my employee menu, and you'll see you've got some information. You're going to provide the date and reason, and the offboarding assistant will be recommended when it's required. And we want you to run it to stay compliant when you're ready. So you'll notice that shortage of work comes up when I start running the offboarding assistant for this client. Offboarding assistant is recommended. It's because shortage of work would require termination payments. On the flip side, if I say this employee quit, you'll note that offboarding assistant is no longer recommended. I'm going to show you what it looks like when we don't recommend them. So you get a little verification, all good to terminate. We don't require termination compensation, and we're all set, and we can go ahead and terminate this employee and move over to our ROE from here. I'm going to go back and I'm going to put this employee back in a situation where we might owe them termination payments. And it's going to recommend the offboarding assistant, and we're going to say next. Okay, and here we have it. So now we've got a, hey, look, you should probably do this. Again, if we're talking about a very simple termination, you owe them pay in lieu and some vacation, go for it. Have a nice day. For accountants and bookkeepers, we want to make sure this tool gives you the value that you're looking for when it's the harder ones. We don't want to take away what you already know. We don't want you to waste time on things you already know. We want you to have backup for when it's the harder ones, or if it's a particularly difficult employee and you want the documentation. So you'll see that at the end. So we are about to terminate our employee, and he is eligible, and let's go ahead and run the offboarding assistant. I'm also going to show you what to do when you have that instance of like change of ownership. How do you get past it if you don't need to run it? So we have a hire date on file. If this is not the original hire date, because the original hire date can count for a lot, we can enter that. And what's the termination date? The time that we might not have the original hire date on file is, let's say the employee's been working for you, they've gone on parental leave, and then they've come back. That would be their new hire date. And so you would want to give that original hire date, because legislative leave does count as far as length of employment. We've got our termination date, and I'm going to say continue. Now, this employee happens to be in Toronto, and I see we've got in Ontario. We've got a couple of people joining from Ontario. So in Ontario, we have severance pay. It's the only province that does, and it is different than other types of payments that in other provinces. It's an additional payment that you might have to pay. So it's going to ask me when I gave notice, and it's also going to ask me whether my global payroll for the current calendar year will be over 2.5 million. This is the question that will make me subject to severance or not. For those of you that don't know, global payroll means your company that's in Ontario and the payroll that they pay worldwide over 2.5 million. So they could have employees all over the world. If they pay more than 2.5 million in global payroll, then they are subject to severance payments. Also, the employee has to be with the company for a minimum of 5 years in order for severance to be eligible. So that's it. We got 4 questions that were asked. And the first time we use the offboarding assistant, we're going to see a nice little disclaimer. You'll note that the fees are here. The fee is $100 per use, and it will be added to your monthly billing. Nothing will be debited from your client. Your client also will not see this option. They will not have the ability to use the offboarding assistant and therefore charge you without your consent. So once you agree to the terms, you will get an email confirming all of these terms. It will rewrite all of them out for you. The pricing will be in bold. Again, we want you to know what's going on here. Make sure that you kind of see and feel what you're getting. Once I've done that, I'm going to click calculate. And we can see that it's calculated nicely for us. Once I click the continue button, the fee will be added to the billing table. So just know that if at any point you do want to stop, that's okay. You just don't continue from here. Once I click continue, I'm going to see my results. And you'll notice, wow, that seemed like really fast and really easy. And I actually owe this employee $79,000. based on their length of employment, based on the missing pay in lieu, vacation on that. It's the severance that's really getting to me, and I've got this in the center here. It's a lot of money. So my on-screen results give me some basic information. These are the things that I input into the tool. It lays it all out for me, and it tells me what my fee is. Now, I have a couple of options from this page, how I work with it. So first things first, I can download the PDF. I feel like the PDF is one of the most valuable pieces that you get out of this, because this is something that you share with your client, you share with you, they can share with their employees, because the first page just gives us the same thing as that view on screen does. The second two pages actually give you a full detailed explanation of the calculation. We're not trying to hide anything. This is how we got to the number that we got to. It lists out all the inputs we got, and if there was variables, again, remember we err on the side of caution. If there were variables saying, the ESA lists two ways you could pay this out. And so it shows you the calculation for the two ways, and it takes the greater of. And this is actually what the ESA says to do. Or if there's a if there's any variables, it will err on the side of the employee. It will explain how it did it and why. It will list out all of the assumptions that it used to get to the information that it got to. So remember I said they were available under the help pages? Great. They're also here in your individual letter, so that, again, the employee, the employer, and were ESA to come back and say, we're doing an investigation, you could hand this to them. This is exactly what we did and how we got the number that we got. I love this last little part because it shows you that if I were to pay in lieu of notice, like if I gave no notice, which I did in this instance, I owe $18,000. But if I gave 3 weeks notice, I would actually owe nothing. Sorry, wrong. If I gave 8 weeks notice, I would actually owe nothing. And so it goes down for me and lists like how much notice do I want to provide. This means that you could run this tool early and tell your client, hey, I know you didn't want to give them any notice, but you may want to consider 4 weeks notice instead of none, and then you only owe this much. And so giving them that information is really valuable. Additionally, on the completed Offboarding Assistant view, we have a couple of different options. So you're welcome to speak with an HX specialist. HX is our human experience team, and they're happy to go over your results with you. If you feel like your client needs that little extra boost, we've got you. We've got your back. Again, we know you know this, but if you don't have time, or maybe this isn't your area of expertise, we're here for you. Under your next steps, you have two options. You can either pay the employee, and if you pay the employee, it's going to open up a series of help articles. It's going to show you how to create the specific rules within Payment Evolution, how to run that final pay run, and how to account for it on the ROE when you get to that point. If you're ready to continue offboarding, you go and you pay the employee, and you're all set. When you're ready to continue offboarding, you can do that by clicking on the Continue Offboarding button. You can go back and click your View Results button here, and you'll get that PDF again. It'll take you back to the page, and you can re-download the PDF, or you can just terminate. Once you're ready, it will prompt you to move into the ROE, and so the terminate step is really with an understanding that you have now used the information that was given to you, and you have now paid out all of the remaining compensation required for this termination. So pretty simple, pretty cool. You see how fast that was? That's the really crazy thing, is that, again, if you're in a complex situation and you have to spend your time researching and really trying to figure out what are the right amounts, doing the calculations, your time is valuable. And if you're, billing your client for that time, you still can. You can bill them for that time, but you can use the tool. And you can use the tool to validate all of the things that you've done. If you've got part of, if you're doing value billing and you're not billing them for your time, using the tool is actually a great savings to you, because it won't take you any time other than the 2 minutes that it took me to complete. But And the cost, well, you got to take into consideration the time that you would have spent if you didn't use the tool. So I want to show you now how to deal with the fringe case of that change of ownership. So remember, the tool is going to err on the side of caution, and so because it does that, this change of ownership is going to recommend the offboarding assistant because it doesn't know which of the two scenarios is actually happening. So I already started this one. I got an employee all ready for you guys. And you'll notice I did code K13 other change of ownership, and it's recommended. But maybe my client who's having a change of ownership, it's just a new CRE number. They've gone from one owner to the next, and they're taking all the employees with them. So really, we're terminating the employees in this company so we can send the data to CRA and Service Canada, and we're going to hire them in the new one. Great. In that case, you don't need the offboarding assistant, and it's really easy to skip. So if you don't need it, if you've decided that maybe it's a simple termination or it's one of these kind of fringe scenarios, no problem. On the page where you would run the offboarding assistant, just click the down arrow and click skip. It's going to ask you, are you sure? Because sometimes we make mistakes and we just want to make sure. You can always say no, go back, and you can redo it, or you can skip it. You have that ability. It is going to note it to you, hey, you've skipped it. That's fine. It's a confirmation that you said, no, I know exactly what I'm doing. I'm confirmed that I am compliant, and I'm going to go ahead and terminate this employee. So whatever your situation is, you can analyze it, and you've got all the options within the tool. Pretty cool, huh? All right. Now that we've had our quick demo, we're going to come back to our slides and talk about what's next. Let's really understand what you get out of this, because this is really important. First and foremost, you get insured compliance. There is so many defaults and checks built into this tool that we are making sure that you are at or above that compliance level for the ESA for every single province in Canada. You get that downloadable detailed report with your results and the explanation of the calculations. You can share that with your client. You can share that with their employee, and on top of it, you could even share it with the Ministry of Labor if you were subject to an ESA investigation. You know, show them, hey, this is exactly what we did. This is a lovely explanation of the complete features and settings and assumptions that were put into this tool. You get guidance on next steps. You've got the ability to talk to an HX specialist if you're interested. You've got the ability to set up that pay run and follow those help articles. And obviously, you've always got our CS team that's here to help when questions come up about how do I do this? How do I do that? We've got your back. And sorry, I already said the guidance on how to speaking with an HX professional. See, I'm getting ahead of myself. I do that sometimes. I want to be very clear and talk about what you don't get, because this is important. It's important that everybody understands this. You do not get protection from independent legal action. And what I mean by independent legal action is any employee can go to an employment lawyer and say, I was terminated from my position and I think they owe me more money. Anybody can do this, and there is nothing out there that will protect you from this. Even people with a tight employment, like a termination contract with it, like termination clause within their contract, still doesn't stop them from actually going to a lawyer and saying, I want you to investigate this. And the lawyer can, and they might, and they will, and they'll decide whether there's a case or not. And from that point, the most important thing that you need to know and that your client needs to know is that regardless of whatever happens with an independent legal case, the company, the employer, is still required to pay those ESA minimum standard obligations. 100%, if they do not pay them and go, oh, this person's suing me, so I'm not going to give them anything. No, that puts your client in a bad light. If it ends up before a judge, it puts them in a really bad light, and they're actually in violation of the Employment Standards Act. And the employee could then go to the Ministry of Labor. regardless of what happens, when you are terminating an employee and there are required termination payments, you have to pay out the ESA amounts. If the employee at that point goes and starts independent legal action, there's nothing you can do to stop them. So make sure that they're being compliant, they're doing their part. It'll look really good for them if there is independent legal action and it goes before a judge or a mediator who says, we see that you really were being compliant, doing the right thing at the right time. And that counts for your employer. So let's talk about pricing. Yay. It's $100 per use. So we talked about that when we saw the disclaimer. That's great. Yeah, I imagine you have questions. It was initially free, right? We gave this to our accountants and bookkeepers for free. And why isn't it free anymore? Well, honestly, there's been a lot that's gone into building this tool. We did it to solve those compliance problems. We were hearing it over and over and over again. And we gave it to you for free because we wanted to hear what you had to say. We wanted you to use it. We didn't want you to be held back by the initial price of an unproven tool. And what we got was some incredible feedback, and we've built an even better version based on some of your requests and suggestions. And by the way, keep them coming. We want to hear more. We always want to build the next version. We want to build what you guys want. But the tool was never built to be included. It's an add-on service. It's a really extra special feature, and we gave it away because we wanted you to use it and hear what you had to say. And obviously, you know how to use it. You know how to skip it. It's completely up to you whether you choose to use it or not. But let's talk about why you should maybe pay for this if the situation deems it. Again, for simple terminations, we know you know this. We're not trying to say that you don't. It's the more complex and challenging ones, and giving you the opportunity to provide documentation to your client and their employee is essential, not to mention the Ministry of Labor if they come back to the employer. The penalties for noncompliance are costly. So if you have one of those ESA investigations, you might see that the penalties that come back are within that $25,000 to $50,000 range. That's a lot of money. You never want your employer to be in that kind of situation because I guarantee they're not going to be happy with you if they are. I want you to think about the penalties for noncompliance might be costly, but some of the other options to remain compliant. So the first and foremost is your time. They're going to come to you first. That's what you're there for. Your time is valuable, and we recognize that. And if this saves you 2 hours, then it was probably worth the $100 that you paid for it, because your time, I would imagine, is worth more than $50 an hour. And if you had, said, I don't have time, or this isn't my area of expertise, and you send your client over to an employment lawyer, an HR professional. Employment lawyers are anywhere from $300 to $800 an hour. An HR professional is $100 to $300 an hour. And while that might not seem that much to the HR professional, you have to consider that neither of these people know anything about your client. They don't know anything about their history, about their employee's history. And so for them to gather the data, do the research, make the proper recommendation, you're probably looking at 3 to 4 hours of work. So at the end of the day, it actually does turn out to be a much better cost basis than any of the other options out there. So we're almost done. Here's what I want you to walk away with today. This tool will simplify compliance, but it can never replace anyone. You already know how to offboard an employee. Again, I've been saying it for the last 40 minutes. We know you know how to do this. This will help you do it faster and easier at a fraction of the cost of noncompliance or the other resources available. The goal at the end of the day is to give your client peace of mind. You have done the right thing. You have given them the right information, and they have done right by their employee. And so again, terminations can be hard sometimes, and sometimes they're not the best feeling when people are walking away, but having that employee know that they walked away with a fair and compliant payment is essential to making sure that the relationship is not completely terrible. So I'm pretty sure that's it. Yeah, that's it. All right. Let us know what you think. Type in the chat. We want to hear from you. I don't know. I don't see any questions coming in, but I'm trying to look under my screen. Um, does anyone have any questions? I know that was a lot to digest. It's pretty cool. Anyone? I'm gonna give it a minute. Mhm. It's always funny when there's no questions at the end of a webinar, and when I say either I totally overwhelmed you or I answered every question that you had along the way. So I always hope it's the latter and not the former. Um, but if we do, we might just end a few minutes early if I don't actually see any coming in. So that's cool. Oh, is there one? Oh, great tool. Thank you. Um, yeah, we're really excited about it. Again, um, I I will I would love to hear from you. If you use it, if you have questions, if you have suggestions, reach out to our CS team. They'll put you in touch with me if you've got some feedback. We definitely want to hear what you think. We build these tools because people ask us for more compliance related tools. And so this was one of the first that we built. We're building a couple others. We always want to know what you want to see. So please, by all means, give us some feedback and tell us what you think. Um, I'm going to close off a little early today just because it doesn't seem like we have any questions. That's okay. That's great. It means I'm going with I answered them all, and everybody is excited to use this tool. So thank you very much for joining us today. We really appreciate your time. Again, we're sorry about the little technical issue at the very beginning. We are going to send out a post-event survey shortly. Please let us know what you thought of the webinar today. Let us know if what you think about the tool, and we look forward to hearing from you. Anyway, I hope everyone has a great day and have a great rest of your week and into your weekend.